Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone, this is Dr. Angan Sengupta, an assistant professor with Amrita Vishwavidyapeetham in the Bangalore campus. I welcome you all in this series of lectures on basic microeconomics on behalf of Channel 15 Swayam Prabha. I hope all of you along with your family members are keeping well. So today we'll be discussing about theory of demand and supply, theory of supply. So I'll share the screen for you. And so what is demand? Demand is basically the desire, the willingness, the wish, or the ability to buy a good or service, to buy something, right? Either a commodity or someone's service. Yes, my ability, first of all, my wish, and then my willingness or ability to wish or willingness, and then finally the ability to buy a certain commodity or service. A market demand is a combination of all the individual consumers' demand who are existing in a particular market. Now, what does this law of demand state? The law of demand states that the quantity demanded of a particular good and services, the quantity demanded of a particular good and services falls when the price of that particular product rises, and vice versa. That means opposite. So when price rises, quantity demanded falls. When price falls, quantity demanded rises, provided all other factors that affect the buyer's decision, that means income, their choice, their preference, the weather, anything else that has to do with the buyer's decision to buy a particular commodity will remain unchanged. It is known as ceteris paribus, that every other factors, conditions that can impact the relationship between price and the quantity demanded will remain same, and that is this condition, this types of assumption is known as ceteris paribus. Yeah, so demand is my willingness to buy or ability to buy something, and if all these individuals demand you can accumulate, if those who are existing in a particular market combine them all, then that is known as market demand. All right, so a demand schedule is a table that lists the various quantities of a particular product or service that someone is willing to buy over a range of possible prices. That means over here you can see that if the price per egg is 5 rupees, the quantity demanded of egg per week is just 2. Whenever the price falls from 5 to 4, now the quantity demanded per week by an individual or a household is 4. When the price per egg is 3 rupees, 6. And you can see when the price is decreasing 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, the quantity demanded is increasing. So it happens when we visit a market that we see that if the price being offered is decreasing, and my quantity demanded will increase. If the price is rising, I will not consume or buy that commodity at a higher price, so my demand will fall. So this is known as demand schedule. When you plot this demand schedule on a graphical two-dimensional graph, where price is on the vertical axis, that is y-axis, and quantity demanded will be mentioned in the horizontal axis, that is x-axis, then you can plot all these values, 5 against 2, 4 against 4, 3 against 6, and you can get these kinds of downward sloping demand curve. 5 2 4 4 3, 6, and so on. All right. So a demand curve is the line that connects all these price and quantity combinations, and that will produce a downward sloping demand curve. That when price rises, quantity demanded falls, and when price increases, quantity demanded will fall. When price rises, quantity demanded will fall. When price falls, quantity demanded will rise. So so naturally it's a general human behavior that when price will rise, the quantity demanded will fall, and vice versa. We buy produce now. When we discussed in our last class that we touched upon the how demand curves, or how an individual's demand curve is is drawn, or how an individual makes his or her demand based on their utility. We also learned about, we touched upon Marshallian demand curve and Hicksian demand curve, and so on and so forth. But so it basically, if I gain satisfaction from consuming something, then I have a demand for that. If I do not have a satisfaction, I will naturally do not consume that. If I do not like smoking, I do not like cigarettes, I will not buy cigarettes even if the price is low, or the and if someone is chain smoker, even if the price is high, that person may buy cigarettes. The same thing. So, and for different commodities, an individual's demand pattern will vary for different kinds of commodities. So an individual's demand for cigarettes will differ from that of pani puri, and that will demand from its milk's consumption. So here, therefore, the demand, or given the price, the demand a consumer will place will completely depend upon that how much satisfaction they are gaining, what is their usefulness in their life, that consumer's life. So, and that will determine my demand curve, demand. And that the marginal utility, that is that with every consumption, my additional utility declines. That is the principle of diminishing marginal utility. With every single additional consumption of a particular commodity, my additional satisfaction, whatever I am gaining with that extra amount of consumption, that declines. And this diminishing marginal utility can explain the demand, the downward sloping demand curve, that when my gaining satisfaction will fall with every individual unit of this thing of consumption, then naturally my demand for that particular commodity will fall, right? So so we try to understand that satisfaction. We consider whether the satisfaction we expect to gain is worth the money we are spending or not. So whenever my satisfaction level goes down, I will not like to pay a lot of money. And hence, if my satisfaction is going down with further increase of consumption, or so the price will naturally go down, because when I consume more, my satisfaction will fall, and my willingness to pay for that will also fall. So my quantity demanded is increasing and price is falling. So it's like that. So over here we see that the changes in demand occurs when demand curve, along the demand curve, you see that price has moved from, say, again taking an example of those eggs. So price of egg increases from 3 rupees to 4 rupees, and we see that demand is actually declining from 6 units to 4 units per week, right? So when price rises, so just turn these arrows upside down, and if the when the price was 4 rupees, the demand was 4 eggs. Now the price falls to 3 rupees, and the quantity demanded will increase now to 6 eggs. So it shows an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. Demand curve can also shift. Now what we learned over here, the changes in demand with the changes in price With the changes in price, changes in demand will occur along the demand curve, But does it happen always? No. If there are certain parameters being changed, such as number of buyers, if you are thinking about the market demand curve, that certainly changes the number of consumers, and that will change the demand. Say the number of buyers is increasing, and that will increase the number of the quantity demanded. If the number of buyers is increasing, number of consumers is increasing, that will change the quantity demanded. If the number of buyers is decreasing, that will fall the decline, that will reduce the quantity demanded with the same price. Right. Similarly, if the income of a group of consumer of an individual consumer is increasing, then naturally, given the same price, I can buy more, and my demand will increase for that commodity, right? And similarly, if my income falls, say during coronavirus, if I think that my income will decline, and naturally my demand for eggs will also drop, right? So the tastes and preferences, it says that if I start liking liking organic products, then my demand for organic product will increase. If I start liking the gel pens instead of ball pens, then my demand for gel pen will increase. So the same can happen vice versa. If I do not like, say, Hajmola, and the demand for Hajmola will fall, or if we start liking as a group of individuals, a society, a market altogether, start liking Hajmola or a particular variety of Hajmola, then its demand will increase. So it varies with the tastes and preference as well, and there is nothing to do with price again. Expectations, changes in what consumers expect that is going to happen in future, such as if I think that the price, is going to be a shortage of food grains or shortage of food during this corona outbreak, suddenly the demand for the food, basic food items, rice, dal, all these things, sugar, salt, increased. Similarly, again, there was a rise in the demand of sanitizer, thinking that the corona will during corona everyone will require hand sanitizer, and then there was a sudden upsurge of hand sanitizers in the market. At the same time, we have also seen that the demand for certain commodities decrease, like say veg foods. So expecting that there can be a spread of this virus from the non-veg, or maybe in future the non-veg item may not be available. So thinking of that, or that can be contaminated, thinking of that, you have stopped taking certain foods, and that again declines the demand for those commodities and the given price. The related goods, complements and substitutes. Now, what is complement? Complement is, if I consume 1 unit of X, I must require that certain units of Y. So complements is when one cannot be used without the other, such as the left pair of shoe cannot be used without the right pair of shoe. Both the left and right should be together. And it can be like, say, petrol car cannot run without petrol. So petrol and petrol car are complements. Whereas substitutes are the same product, say a pain balm from two different companies. A pain balm from, say, Move pain balm and a Volini gel pain balm, right? Or Crocin or Dolo 650, two paracetamols. At the same time, watch, an analog watch and a digital watch, they perform almost similarly, right? And so a ball pen and a gel pen, so they are the perfect substitutes. I can just write using a ball pen as well as using a gel pen. does not really matter a lot. So what happens when price remains same and suddenly the consumer demand increases? So you can see here the price is same and then the consumer demand has increased from 6 to 8, pertaining to rise in consumers income. Suddenly the consumer's income has increased and his demand has moved from 6 to 8 given the price 3 rupees, and hence you can see the demand curve has shifted upwards. If the price of those eggs were 4 rupees and then that consumer was consuming 4, and now that consumer wants to consume with a rise in income consumes wants to consume 6 units, and hence that the entire demand curve will shift parallelly outside, right? The same thing you can have, you can see, say if there is a people, if there is a bird flu and people have stopped buying eggs, and that is where even the price remains same 3 rupees, the demand starts falling. So the price has not increased, basically the price has remained same, and then the demand has declined. With 3 rupees of price, demand has declined from 8 to 6. With 4 rupees of price, demand will probably decline from 6 units to 4 units, and hence they will shift parallelly. So if price changes, then demand will shift along the demand curve. If price changes, then the demand over here, price has changed from 3 to 4, and then the demand has shifted along the demand curve. Anything apart from price changes, and anything apart from price changes, price over here is kept constant, the demand curve will move upwards or downwards, rightwards and leftwards, depending upon whether it is increasing, then it is rightwards; if it is decreasing, leftwards, right? And that is how it works. Right, now coming back to the substitutes and complementary good, what happens with the price of another one commodity and the quantity demanded of the other commodity? I told you they are related goods, but the characteristics of these related goods are different from each other. So what does this substitute goods say? A substitute is a product that can be used in place of another. Like say, if I have got an injury in my elbow, so or shoulder, it's paining, so I will use Move, or I will use Volini, or I will use Volvogel, or anything else that will give me kind of same satisfaction, right? So one can be used in, or if I need to write something on a notebook, if I have a ball pen or I have a gel pen, it does not really matter as long as I can write. Hence, what happens if there are two substitute goods, then the price of one good, if it rises, the demand for other good will rise, right? We can also see tea and coffee. If I like both tea and coffee equally, and then I see the price of tea is increasing, yes, my demand for tea will decrease, right? But how will I compensate that? Coffee's price has remained same, I will shift to coffee, right? Similarly, if the price of ball pen is increasing, I will shift to gel pen, and hence the demand for gel pen will rise. The same thing happens if the price of ball pen is decreasing, then the demand for ball pen will increase and many people will shift from gel pen to ball pen, and that's how this adjustment happens. So if for substitute good, if price of one product rises, the demand for other product will also rise. Whereas for complementary good, if the price of one product declines, the demand for that product will increase and the demand for its complementary product will also increase. Or the price of that product, one product, is increasing, the demand for that product will decrease and the demand for the associate product will also decrease. Let us take an example that if the price of petrol is increasing, demand for petrol will decrease, sorry. If the price of petrol is increasing, demand for petrol will decrease, and hence the demand for petrol card should also decrease. Taking another example, contact lens, and it has to be kept in a solution, right? So any contact lens have to be kept in a solution. So if the price of contact lens is increasing, the demand for contact lens will drop And naturally, if no one buys contact lens, no one will buy those solution, right? Otherwise those solution have no use. So if the price of contact lens is increasing, the demand for contact lens solution will decrease, because contact lens and contact lens solution are complementary. If this is demanded more, this has also to be sold more. If its demand is decreasing, the demand for this will also decrease, because otherwise it does not have any value. All right. So in a nutshell, changes in any factors other than price causes demand curve to shift either right or left, depending upon that at each price, given the price, depending upon whether the demand is increasing or demand is decreasing. A demand function can be stated as as a function you can see here, which is like a quantity demanded. UXT is a function, is an equation format, is a function of price of that commodity in that particular time period. You can remove this time component. So a demand for a particular commodity X can be stated as a function of price of that commodity, price of the substitute commodity, price of the complementary commodity, price of that commodity in some future time, t plus I. T is today's time and t plus I is, or t plus 1. YT is that income of that consumer, N is the number of consumer, T is test preference, and E is all other components, right? So this is how you state a demand function. You can also state the demand function as A minus BP. So, where P is the price and quantity is the quantity equals A minus BP. P is the price and Q is the quantity demanded, and A minus. Why this minus? That is because there is an inverse relationship between price and quantity. So when price increases, quantity decreases. That is a linear demand equation. Therefore, if we are looking at the market demand curve, then a market demand curve is nothing but an aggregate of all these individual demand curves given a particular market. So when you add all these individual demands for a particular price, say there are now in this diagram, you can see we are assuming that there are two consumers, consumer A or consumer B, or you and me. So and the price of that egg is 4 rupees, and probably I consume 4 eggs in a week and you consume 6 eggs in a week. So if only 2 of us are there in the market, so the total demand for the market will be 10 units. For 4 plus 6 equals 10, right? So that is my market demand curve. And you see, and if the demand is 2, then the price is 2, the demand is 8, and for me, and 10 for you, so the total demand will be 18. So that is the market demand curve. You connect all of them together, and that gives you the market demand curve. Sorry. So there are certain exceptions to the demand curve, that when generally the law of demand says that price will increase, quantity demanded will decrease, and vice versa. But there are two types of goods, in brief, which defy this conventional law of demand. Sir Robert Giffen observed in the early 19th century, 1800 something, that those who are low-paid British workers, lower economic profile, those who are little poorer economically. So it was found that they are consuming more of bread, even if the price of bread is increasing. So price of bread is increasing, and their consumption for bread is also increasing. Now, why is this happening? Because of the price of bread is increasing, their budget is constrained. They have a lower income, and then they cannot buy enough of meat. So they are substituting bread and meat with each other, and therefore they cannot buy enough of meat. So they are, compensating that meat with bread. So therefore, even if the price of bread is increasing, they cannot consume both of them together, and they are opting for a poorer substitute, that is bread. Often we have found these given goods are inferior commodities. In our example, it can be rice. Say both the rice and some other vegetables price is increasing, so we will consume more of rice even if the price of rice is increasing, because we cannot buy all of the vegetables or a lot of vegetables. So our rice is our staple food, so even if the price is increasing, so we will consume more of rice. So in this diagram you can see at the initial part in the bottom half of this y or the price axis, we see that even if the price is increasing and the quantity demanded is increasing, after a certain while they cannot take any more, and then it follows up the conventional demand curve, that after that if the price is increasing, then that is beyond their reach, and then the demand starts decreasing. But initially if the price is increasing, other exception of this demand curve is given by Thorstein Veblen, and by his name this is known as Veblen good. And what Veblen suggested, that certain people, especially the richer class, they find that if the price is more, then there is a higher utility. Either the quality of will be good, or there will be a larger prestige issue. So they are luxury products. So if for certain products, like say diamond, a luxury car, even if the price is increasing, the demand for those commodities are increasing because they have a higher utility with the rise in price. And also they think that there is a prestige value attached with this. So the demand rises with the prices for these luxurious commodities, and then they are known as Veblen goods. And over there we have found that yes, that also defies the conventional demand theory, that price increases and quantity falls. No, it does not happen for these typical Veblen goods. The other types of exceptions in demand theory can be stated as snob effect. It is a situation where the demand for a certain good by some individuals of higher income level, of richer section, will be different, will be inverse, not only different, it will be completely inverse, that is opposite, related to its demand as it is observed by the lower income level. Say for a certain commodity, the lower income level, if the price increases, the quantity falls. For that same commodity, what the higher income level will do, if the price rises, they will demand for higher quantity of that particular commodity. So for the lower income people, it's following the same traditional demand theory. But for the higher income people, it is going a positive upward direction, showing a positive association between price and quantity demanded. That again has similar to the Veblen effect, that has some prestige issue to do with it, and they want to be different from the rest, from the poorer section of the population. They want to be different. Yes, they want to be elite. So this is how this snob by the word is like a feeling of I am little different from the rest, right? Whereas bandwagon effect is completely opposite to the snob effect. It says that it's a psychological effect, psychological phenomena, where some people follow the group. Right, over there, snob effect, they are not following the group, they are snob, they are different. Over here they are following the group, that even if the price will rise, they will do something what their peers or the other in the community are doing. So if certain group of people are going for a higher income school, if the school is expensive but they are going to that school, they're sending their children to that school, even if I cannot afford some prices higher than for me, I will also send my child to that school. And the school increase in price, and everyone following that, the rest of the group, they will send their children to that school, and hence the price is increasing, school's fees is increasing, but the demand is also increasing. The same can happen is a simpler example, that Dhoni's hairstyle. Even if the salon, they charge me say 200 rupees to not cut my hair, so Dhoni's hairstyle, or say some footballers' hairstyle during World Cup football, right? It was very popular, Ronaldo's hairstyle. So if certain hairstyle is very popular, and or some filmsters hairstyle is very popular, and even if they are asking for a higher price, and if I see my my friends or people in that community, everyone is doing that, and even if the saloon is charging me higher, I will go for that. So the price is high, but the quantity demanded has also increased. So it's a psychological phenomena to follow the group, right? And again, future expectations of prices, we have seen that when the price rises, sometimes we have seen earlier, that the demand curve shifts upwards, or when the future expectation of prices rises, that means even if the price is same, I think that at future the price is going to be higher, and it will be difficult to buy at that comment that amount what I am buying now at future. So what I will do, I will buy it now, right? For the future I will keep it in stock. So that is when the keeping the price level same, the future expectation of price rise will increase my demand. Over here what happens, the same thing, that thinking that at future the price will increase, and hence my demand also increases, and eventually the price is slowly increasing, and I think that in future it is increasing now, but in future it will continue increasing. So now it is not that high, so let me buy. So even if the price has increased little bit, the demand has increased, right? Thinking that the price will increase further in future. So the price has started increasing, the demand has increased. Yes. And goods with no substitute, a good which is produced by a monopoly, and it has no substitute, say only one uh, there is only one manufacturer who manufactures candle, and there is no other substitute, there is no electronic emergency light, there is no other thing. So I have to, even if the price rises, I will have to buy candle from that particular manufacturer or seller, and hence it shows a positive demand. The same thing happens for eventually the where there is a monopoly, like say Indian Railways. So if the price rises, so it does not really matter much. In fact, if the price rises, the same thing happens, like future expectation of prices, I will try to keep a stock of that, and then because there is no other substitute, I have to buy this, and this is the only option for me. So what is a supply curve? A supply refers to the to the various quantities of a good or a service that a producer is willing to sell or supply or produce at different possible market prices. Yes. And a market supply, we will learn about that, is an aggregate of all these different individual producers supply for every given prices. So accumulating data, we will come to that. So what we have seen, that for a supply schedule, it is given over here that at a price of 5 rupees per egg, they are willing to supply 10 units. If the price is 4 rupees, they are willing to supply 8 units. And the price is 3 rupees, 6 units. So it is falling down. So higher the price, you can see when the price moves from 1 rupee to 5 rupees, they are willing to supply 2 to 10 units. So at a lower price, rupees 1, they are willing to supply lesser amount of eggs. When the price is increasing, they are willing to supply more of eggs. Right. And hence, if you plot them together, you can observe that the same axis distribution, that the price goes in the y-axis, the vertical axis, and the quantity supplied over here goes in the x-axis. And then if you plot them, you will find that it gives you an upward sloping supply curve, because it has a positive association between price and quantity supplied. And over here we observe that when the price is increasing, quantity supplied is also increasing. Therefore, that is a positive association, and that forms a positive sloping, upward sloping supply curve. So naturally, the law of supply then holds that producers will normally offer more or produce more at a higher prices, and sell or produce lesser at a lower prices. Now, what are the reasons that a supply curve will be, downward sloping, upward sloping, or when the price rises, why a producer would like to, increase his sales or production, or and vice versa. When the price decreases, that demotivates them to supply or produce more. So instead, when the price falls, they will produce or supply or sell lesser amount. um, in For demand curve, we have learned that, okay, for the diminishing marginal utility, a demand curve will slope downwards. Now, why a supply curve slopes outwards? That's primarily because the supplier or the producer would like to cover their costs, or will try to gain a profit. All right. Now, what are their costs? Their costs are basically the producers purchase some resources, and that is their cost. When they are whatever resources, the inputs they are using, the labor, the capital, the raw materials they are using for production. So they are buying them. That has some cost associated with that, related to the price of those resources, the inputs. So given those price of the resources fixed, and hence the cost being fixed, if they are selling at a lower price, a larger amount, then they will not be able to recover the cost they are incurring to produce per unit of those, of that particular output, right? So the cost is fixed of but they are selling at, so say the cost of production is 5 rupees per egg, or the 4 rupees per egg. If they are selling it in 1 rupee, that does not really make them a lot of profit, or does not cover their costs, so that demotivate them to sell eggs at a lower price at a larger quantity. So that is why they will try, if the producers are incurring particular cost, they will try to beat the resources away from the alternative uses, or for the alternative uses, based upon what is their, what is the price, and they are incurring to purchase the raw materials, and what is the price they are getting against their final product. So the businesses provide goods and services hoping to make the profit. So it is very simple, and the profit is supposed to make the cover up the costs. So if they are not getting enough prices, so they will not naturally will try to be in that business, or will try to sell a lot of a larger quantity of that particular product. So the higher the price, there will be a higher chance to cover their profits, or to cover their cost to gain a profit. All right. Then as we have observed that if there is the supply curve is upward sloping, so if there is a change in price, so the change in supply will happen along the supply curve. If there is a change in price, the change in supply will happen along the supply curve. So if the price decreases from 3 rupees to 2 rupees, the producer will sell 6 units of egg, or 6 eggs to 4 eggs. Vice versa, if the price rises from 2 rupees to 3 rupees, they will be encouraged to sell or produce more. So they will be selling 4 eggs to 6 eggs now with 3 rupees of price, and the supply will rise, right, with the rise in price. Over here you can see the arrows are downwards. So if the price is falling from 3 to 2, they will not be encouraged enough, so they will sell lesser amounts. So earlier with 3 rupees they were selling 6 units, now with 2 rupees they will be selling 4 units. Apart from price, there are certain factors which generally changes the supply, such as subsidies and taxes. If the government provides subsidies to the producers, they will be encouraged, because government provide subsidies means that will reduce their cost, or they are the cost of the resources will be lower, and hence they will not incur a larger cost, and they can afford afford a larger quantity at a lower price, or at the same price, if there is a subsidy from the government. At the same time, if there is a tax, then their cost of production is increasing, the price whatever they are keeping, if it is be remaining fixed, then the cost is increasing but the price is fixed, then the profit margin is decreasing and they will not be encouraged to supply more and the supply decreases. So the subsidies encourage supply, it will increase the supply, the taxes discourage supply, it will decrease the taxes on either the direct resources, factors of production, or the taxes on the final output, whatever. So the production or the supply will go down. Technology, an improvement in technology will certainly increase the price. So at the same, certainly increase the supply. At the same price, if earlier with a given technology, they can produce say 500 eggs in a week. Now with an improved technology, they can produce 700 eggs. So naturally, price remaining same, their supply is increasing and that will give them enough profit. Other goods, so the other goods means whether there is any competitor, whether there is a complementary or substitute good which is where price is increasing. So if the substitute goods price is increasing, if I am producing ball pen and the gel pens price is increasing, so my demand for my ball pens will increase, so I will increase the supply, right? Because I will be able to capture a larger market. Or at the same time, if it is complementary good, if the complementary goods price is increasing, so the demand for that commodity decreases, and hence my commodity's demand will also decrease, because if that commodity does not sell, complementary good, right, that commodity does not sell, my commodity will also not sell. If the price of that commodity increases, my sales falls. Similarly, if the price of that commodity falls, my sales will rise. Number of sellers, if the number of sellers is same as number of consumers, higher the number of consumers, higher is the demand. Similarly, higher the number of suppliers, higher is the supply, and vice versa. Lower is the number of supplier, lower is the supply. Expectations, that if I think that because of corona, the demand for masks or hand sanitizer will increase, I will try to increase my supply. Yes, or if I think that I manufacture air conditioner and the next 3 months is going to be winter, and naturally my products will not sell much, or if I sell ice cream or cold drinks during the winter, it will not sell much, so naturally my supply will fall. So that is based on the futures, right? So the resource cost is depending upon the cost of my resources. If the cost of my resources increase, so my cost of production will increase. If I cannot increase the price, my profit margin is decreasing. So the cost of the resources, if it is increasing, my cost of production is increasing. If I cannot raise the price is remaining fixed, so my profit margin is decreasing. That will discourage me to sell more. I will sell less. At the same time, if the price of these resources is decreasing, in that case, I will try to sell more, because the cost of production is decreasing and I can buy more profit. I can have more profit by selling at the given price. So, and you see, whenever there is a rise in supply, so whatever the factor is, maybe there is a subsidy. Yes, maybe the suppliers, number of supplier has increased. Maybe there is an expected rise in demand. So at the given price, my supply will increase. At the same time, and the supply curve shifts outwards. At the same time, if the factors that shifts my demand, that reduces the demand for my commodity, if there is a tax on my product, if there is a future expectation that the demand for whatever I am producing is going to fall, my supply will naturally decline, and hence the supply curve will parallelly shift outwards, leftwards or outwards. So what happens is inwards, leftwards or inwards. So what happens is if anything apart from price is causing the change in supply, then the supply curve will shift rightwards or leftwards. If the supply is increasing, rightwards. If the supply is decreasing, leftwards. So in a nutshell, anything apart from price, when they are shifting, So the decrease in supply will cause a leftward movement, and increase in supply will cause a rightward movement. Yes. So here you can see that the supply equation is given as the quantity supplied of a particular product X at a given time T, which depends upon the related price of its own commodity, that is that X, the price of the related commodities, a future price, the income of the consumers, the number of sellers, the taxes and subsidies, and several other factors. And you can also observe over here that I did not show that when I showed you the demand equation. That demand equation is given, I told you, Qx equals A minus B into price of X. So this negative sign shows the downward sloping demand curve, the negative sign, the negative inverse association between price and quantity demanded. The same thing is observed when there is a positive association, Qx plus equals C plus dPx. So here B and D are the coefficients. So at which rate, when price increases, quantity demanded falls, that is small b, and at which rate price increases and the supply rises, that is small d. So the association between the positive association between price of X and quantity supplied of X is given as the plus symbol, and it's a linear equation between the price and quantity supplied, right? It's the positive linear equation between the price and quantity supplied. And hence the market supply curve now is the summation of the total supply. Is supplier A at the given price of ₹3 is supplying 6 units, and supplier B at the given price of the same price ₹3, he is supplying 8 units. So the total market supply at price 3 will be 6 plus 8 equals 14. So the same thing you can see, if it is 4 rupees, then the supplier A, the red curve, is producing 8 units, and supplier B will be producing 10 units, and hence the total supply will be 8 plus 10, 18. So that is how the market supply is determined. It's an aggregation of the individual supplies at a given price or at different prices. So at different prices, all these aggregations you can add. So at price 1, what will be the total supply? At price 2, what will be the total supply? Price 3, what will be the total supply? Price 4, what will be the total supply? Add them, and you get a market supply curve. Now we are trying to get the supply and demand together, both the consumers and the sellers together, when they are trying to sell their product, the suppliers, and when they are trying to buy the products, the consumer, when they are interacting, they are bargaining in the market, in the reality, what happens? So in the market frame, I go to buy mangoes, the supplier sells the mangoes, and we are interacting and determining a price, and I buy whatever I require at a given price. The supplier will sell whatever he or she intends to sell at a given price, and that will determine an equilibrium. How does it happen? So these are the supply schedule and demand schedule, what we have already discussed. So at different prices, so when price falls down 5 to 1, we see the quantity demanded is increasing, and just the opposite scenario you can observe for supply. When the price falls, the supply falls. When the price rises, the supply rises. So hence the demand decreases, the supply increases with the rise in price. So the demand decreases and supply increases with the rise in price, right? So they move in opposite direction, and hence we have already understood why the supply curve is upward sloping and demand curve is downward sloping. Yes. Now there is a concept of surplus. When this surplus happens, the surplus happens when the quantity supplied at a given price, the quantity supplied or is going to be supplied by a supplier, a producer, or whatever quantity at a given price the producer or supplier is willing to supply is greater than the quantity being demanded at that price, then there is a surplus, because there is more in the market. If at 5 rupees the supplier wants to supply 10 units and the demand is just 2 units, then there is a surplus, because there is more in the market which is not being demanded, which is not being desired to consume, right? So a surplus signals that a price is too high. right? Too high means the producer would be willing to supply, but the consumer has no interest in that. At that price, consumers will not buy all of the product that suppliers are willing to supply. Yes, in a competitive market, whenever there is a surplus that will not last, that will bring down the price because sellers have to sell their products and there is no demand, so they will bring down the price to encourage the consumers to buy their product. Hence, over here you can see at rupees 4, the demand is 4 units and the supply is 8 units. Hence, there is a surplus of 4 units. 8 minus 4. At 4 rupees, the surplus is 4 units because the demand is lesser than the supply. Supply is 8, demand is 4. 8 minus 4. 4 units are additional, are surplus in the market. No one is willing to buy that at that price. Similarly, the other half is shortage. If the price is too low, shortage signals that the price is too low in the market. So the demand is massive. So the consumers would like to buy more at that small price, whereas the quantity being supplied is very low, right? Because at a lower price, the suppliers will not be interested to sell more, but there will be a higher demand because the consumers would like to buy more and more at a lower price. They would like to utilize the budget, right? So a shortage will signal that there is a low, the price is too low, and hence the suppliers will not be able to supply, but there is an excess demand. Yes, that excess demand is known as shortage. And again, in a competitive market, the shortage will not survive because a consumer would like to satisfy their their demand, and as producer would like to sell their products, so they will not be willing to waste their product. So it will naturally increase the price, so the seller will increase the price, and the consumers, understanding that whatever I want to buy, that is no way that is going to be supplied at that lower price. So to satisfy their demand, they will be ready to accommodate to that price rise what sellers are asking for. Hence, in this diagram, we see that in a price of 2 rupees, there is a shortage. How? That the demand is 8 units, the supply is 4 units, right? Now the demand is more, excess demand. The previously at rupees 4, there was excess supplies. Then there was a surplus in the market. Over here, there is a shortage in the market. The consumers want to buy, but there is no supply. That is shortage. So the demand is 8 units, but the supply is 4 units. So the shortage amount is 8 minus 4, 4 units. And therefore, what will happen if there is it's like a pendulum, if there is a surplus or a shortage, if there is a surplus, the price will come down. If there is a shortage, the price will go up. So when operating without any restriction, that is a typical market scenario we have learned in that economic system. It's a typical market scenario where government or no other force is interacting. There is no regulation. Just the consumer and the supplier are talking to each other, bargaining. Then over time, a surplus will force the price down, a shortage will force the price up, and then they will find an equilibrium where both the supplier and the consumers are agreeing to a particular price. Okay, at this price, I will buy this much. And the supplier says, fine, at this price, I am ready to sell you this much. When that price and at that price, both the consumer supplier are agreeing to buy or sell the same amount of or the same quantity of that commodity, then it is known as equilibrium price. At this price, neither there will be a surplus nor a shortage. All right. So if a market reaches an equilibrium, it will stay on that equilibrium if certain things does not change. Like say either supply is falling for some unprecedented or certain reasons, or a demand is changing for certain reasons. Like say suddenly Corona came, and then the price of hand sanitizer increased, the demand of hand sanitizer increased suddenly, and then the price has increased. So suddenly, there is so naturally what happens, shortage, and the demand is more than the supply, and then the supplier will increase the price, so the equilibrium may shift, but that may only happen under certain conditions. Similarly, there can be a shortage of demand as well. All right, there can be a sudden shortage of supply as well, or a sudden rise in supply as well. So there can be changes in both the demand side and the supply side given a certain scenario, and then only there will be a fluctuation from the equilibrium price. Right, but on a longer run, what happens that the price will again adjust itself, and then there will be no surplus, no shortage. Either it will come down or it will find a new equilibrium. Right, over here in this example, our equilibrium is at the 3 rupees, where the demand is 6 rupees and the supply is also 6 rupees. We say, right, that aapka bhi rahe, mera bhi rahe, like you are happy, I am happy, and then this is the price, and well, the consumer says, okay, fine, at this price I will take 6 units of egg, 6 eggs, and the supplier says, okay, fine, at this 3 rupees I can only give you 6, and then they come to a consensus and they are happy, right? So this is known as equilibrium price. So this is how we achieve a market equilibrium. Okay, so we will stop our discussion here today. Thank you very much and take care. We'll see you in our next class, where we'll be discussing elasticity, demand elasticity or price elasticity, income elasticity of demand, and supply elasticity of supply. Thank you very much. Take care.